Hello, thanks everyone for coming. I wanted to start off with a few comments about AQR. I think either my first or second story was published by AQR, and it was really validating for me as a writer because I do write about the landscape of Alaska and my family history there. And I just remember getting the acceptance, and before I had gotten a couple of handwritten rejections, and I knew I was close, and then finally I got an acceptance to the magazine, and I was thrilled, and it was so exciting. So I hope that um, AQR doesn't only publish Alaska writers, obviously, it has a national and international scope, and I hope that you will, if you can, donate to this wonderful magazine. And I'm actually going to read a story that was published in AQR called Us Kids way back in 2009. And I think all I have to tell you is, because you may not know, that a shitter is an outhouse. And that's all I want to tell you. And that word will come up a couple of times. So just be warned. And I'm going to read for 13 minutes in case you were wondering. About 13 minutes. Us kids. Us kids smile and wave good riddance when Fox and Uncle Sly roll out one way and re-roll another, bruised butts in the seats. We're piled into Big Mary, our station wagon that barely fits us all in and is a miracle for starting up. We're packed in with a huge pot full of frozen moose meat and whatever we have to eat in the back, along with the jumble ball of Afghans polar bears always knitting. Fox and Uncle Sly go hunting at the homestead, and Polar Bear drives us to see Aunt Sheila and Jack and Gracie, her cousins, at their house that Uncle Sly built all googly-eyed drunk. The house has gone through a few names: Slack Shack, Plywood Palace, and the one we all remember and still use is the Tilton Hilton. Aunt Sheila has made gumdrop cookies, and she sets a plate of them on the porch. We're pressed to see or taste any gumdrops, but Kitty holds up hers. I see a green one. Polar Bear takes the pot and Afghans into the house, and we know to stay put outside. Aunt Sheila draws the curtains, but we know what they're doing, smoking and drinking homemade cranberry lick. We huddle near the side and listen to the cheap cracked wood. The men are good and gone, says Polar Bear. Ben signs to Rias so he can hear too. Jack shushes Gracie. Maybe they'll do us a favor and shoot themselves, says Aunt Sheila. Maybe, says Polar Bear. I'll drink to that. There's the clink of bottles. JJ crosses his eyes and raises an imaginary bottle to his lips. Colleen, who has baby T on her hip, laughs into her hand. They talk stars and moonlight in the beginning, says Aunt Sheila. And what we get is shit and moonshine, says Polar Bear. Another clink, a smash of glass on the floor. Kitty gives out a yelp. God damn it, says Polar Bear. We huddle closer against the house. I hear you're out there, Polar Bear says. You leave us alone. Scramola. We'll call you for dinner. So we scramola. In front of the Tilton Hilton are two hills, one on each side, because Uncle Sly had meant to put the house on one and the shitter on the other. Nothing better than elevation, he said. But he never got to it, built the house so it was some leaning wobbler between two piles of dirt. He didn't let Fox help him with the house. He did let Fox build the outhouse behind it, near the woods, and it's the only thing that stands up straight. But the hills are perfect for a game of Red Rover, and a rain has started up, which puts the mosquitoes to bed for a bit. We call JJ over, and he comes mud-slipping down the hill to the arm-length chain, but Rias on Colleen with baby T on her hip keep hold. Gracie and Jack and Kitty come to the bottom and join JJ, and they make a wall. The others head up the hill. We call Rias over, and because he might not see to lip read with all the rain, JJ draws an R in the air. Here slides Rias on his belly, and then he gets up and charges the line, breaking through the Jack and Gracie link. So he steals Kitty, and now it's Rias and Kitty and Ben and Colleen and baby T at the bottom of the hill. We call Gracie over. Soon we're all mud creatures, which is good because the rain stops and the mosquitoes wake up and swarm around us, and the sun streaks through the shiner-eyed clouds. Dinner, yells Polar Bear, and she sees us kids all rolled and covered in mud. Stay off the porch, she says, but she takes baby T. We settle on the gravel by the steps with our bowls of moose chili, and for once, there's something moose about it. Colleen, you make sure everyone gets hosed off after everyone eats, says Polar Bear, swimming through her words. A high-pitched screaming wail makes us all stop with our spoons. Aunt Sheila comes wobble running around the Tilton Hilton. She steadies herself on the steps and sits down. What is going on? Says Polar Bear. There's a bird or something in the shitter, Aunt Sheila says, boozy and soft, and it's trapped and it's dying and I pissed on it. She starts crying her face off. We have to get it out. We just have to. For God's sake, says Polar Bear, it's a bird. What's it matter if the world's shy one? She waves away the mosquitoes near her face. But it's alive, says Aunt Sheila. She's a crying mess. Okay, says Polar Bear. Let's go take a look at this bird you pissed on. I didn't know it was down there, says Aunt Sheila. We jump up and follow Polar Bear, the whole mud-covered line of us. Aunt Sheila trails behind, walking zigzag, and Ben falls back to help her. Polar Bear turns around. Sheila, that smell. I know, says Aunt Sheila. The shitter smells like a shitter, even from a way off, because of the rain, because they ran out of lye a couple of days before, and Uncle Sly kept forgetting to buy some. Polar Bear gives baby tea to Colleen and goes in to take a look. It's a dumb buzzard, she says. That's all. We take turns, plug our noses, and look down the hole that's surrounded in white styrofoam so it's warm to sit on in winter. And because Fox made it, it's deep like he made our outhouse at the homestead. There's some flapping and some splashing and a hoarse whistling peep of a bird down there. But it's hard to tell what it is because it's dark in the shitter. We got a flashlight and Big Mary, so Ben goes to find it, and Polar Bear takes baby T and Aunt Sheila back to the house. Promise me you'll get it out, Aunt Sheila says. They promise, says Polar Bear. Ben shines the flashlight, and our dried mud faces must scare the bird because it starts squawking. Not that the bird is much to look at either, covered in a slop of years of dirt and piss and shit. Get me a shovel, says Ben. Jack goes to find one that's under the house. By this time, we've breathed enough of the smell to get used to it, and we've stopped plugging our noses. Ben has JJ hold the flashlight as he leans in the hole with the shovel, but comes up quick. That's not going to do it, he says. We need something to reach farther. I gotta go, says Gracie. Colleen takes her and Kitty into the woods. Then she goes into the house and brings out a broom and a colander. Polar Bear and Aunt Sheila and the baby are lying down, she says. We need tape, says Ben. And he and Jack and JJ and Rice crawl underneath the Tilton Hilton to look for tape in the scattering of Uncle Sly's tools. Colleen holds the flashlight so Gracie and Kitty can look down the hole. He's crying, says Gracie. Little bird, don't you cry, says Kitty. He's probably hungry, says Colleen. Ben comes back holding a dusty roll of duct tape. It's late, but the sun just doesn't quit in July. The mud dries pale and cracked on our skin. We tape the broom handle to the shovel, and Ben holds JJ's legs as JJ goes into the hole, and Jack holds the flashlight. Pull me out, says JJ. We need about this much more. He taps the tips of his fingers, uses his arm as a measuring stick. The shovel has reached the bird's head, but we need to scoop him out. Get that rake, says Ben. Rake, broom, shovel is taped together. JJ goes in again, Ben has him by the ankles, and Rice funnels down the tool. Stop, yells JJ. We're losing the shovel. Ben motions to Rice, who brings up the rake. Hold right there, says JJ. I got to hold on to the shovel, and you got to bring us both up. The tape on the joint has come loose. Thing about smacked the bird in the head and then got me with it. There's a spot on his forehead where the dry cake mud is scraped away. Goddamn shithole. We tape a stronger wrap. This is the last time I'm going, says JJ. We get JJ in, and then the shovel and the rest. I got him, he says. Pull up, pull up. There's a squawk and a splash. He jumped, says JJ. That stupid bird jumped off. He peers down the hole. I'm just trying to help you, you piece of shit. JJ, calm down, says Colleen. He slaps the side of the outhouse. Rice raises his hand. Okay, says Ben. You try. We lower Rice, who's holding the end of the rake broom shovel, into the hole. He gets the bird on, and we're lifting up, and we hear a bigger squawk, and then nothing. The bird's not on the shovel because he's holding it, shit and all, close to his chest, both of them upside down. Ben gets Rice up close to the top, and then lifts him and the bird straight up out of the hole. Jack grabs the bird, and it's screaming, and Rice stands up and takes the bird back, nesting it in the colander and cradling it in the crook of his arm. He pets it on the top of the head, and if birds could smile, this bird would have been smiling your Saint Love beans at Rice. It's not a buzzard, says Colleen. Look at the beak. That's an eagle, an eaglet. Still ugly, says JJ. Let's wash him up, says Colleen. We fill a bucket of water at the pump. As long as Rice pets his head, the eaglet sitting in the colander lets us pour small cups of water over him. He's about the size of a chicken, with yellow feet and yellow at the base of his hooked beak. With a slop off of him, his feathers are grays and browns with white spots on the fringe of his back. All in all, he could be mistaken for a scraggled patch of bear fur, and he wiggles off the water, ruffles up. We find a towel, and Rice bundles him. Colleen brings over a half-eaten bowl of moose chili and hands a spoon to Rice. See if he's hungry, she says. He is. He opens his beak and gobbles down the chili. Rice pets his head, and then Kitty feeds the eaglet. Here you go, little bird, she says. Here you go, shitbird, says JJ, his voice pierced syrup. Shitbird, chimes Jack, and then Jack and JJ chant together. Shitbird, shitbird, that's enough, says Cole. He doesn't know what we're saying, says JJ. Hey, pretty, he says. Hey, ugly shit, see? Leave him alone, says Kitty. He's just a baby. We count, and the eaglet sits in the colander on Rice's lap and eats 11 spoonfuls of chili. I want to keep him, says Gracie. We can't, says Colleen. We could teach him to hunt rabbits for us, says Jack. Or scratch people's eyes out, says JJ. What if he grew up big, says Kitty, and we could ride him? We'd go up in the sky, says Gracie, to the mountains. You'd still smell the shitter up there, says JJ. We have to take him back, says Colleen. There's a nest in the woods that's been abandoned for 3 years, but we figure the eagles must have returned, even if Jack says they haven't seen any flying over like they used to. Where else could this eagle have come from, says Ben. We march past the outhouse into the woods, Rice carrying the eaglet and the colander. We stand at the base of a tall tree, the tangled nest of branches up high near the top. I see something, says Jack, and then we all see a white spot of a bald eagle. They must be flying in from a different direction, says Ben. There's no way we can climb the tree and put the eaglet back in the nest. He must have fallen or tried to fly or gotten pushed out. But how he got into the shitter, we don't know. We'll leave him here, says Ben. His parents will hear him. But I wanted to keep him, says Gracie, and she buries her face against Rice. But he needs to be here, honey, says Colleen. I wanted to keep him too, says Kitty. But his family will miss him, says Colleen. Ben gives the signal, and Rice unwraps the eaglet and places him on the ground. Shouldn't we leave the colander, says Colleen. He seemed to like it. Rice puts the colander on the ground, and the eaglet jumps back into it. He strokes the feathers on the eaglet's chest. Say goodbye, says Colleen. Kitty and Gracie kneel down next to Rice. Goodbye, little bird, they say. JJ shakes his head at their sniffling. Colleen grabs his arm. Hush, she says. We walk away, Rice the last one to leave, and when he does, the eaglet starts screeching, and it's a good thing Rice can't hear him or anything for that matter, or he'd turn back. And we pick up our pace, the sky falling blue through the trees. We're all still a mud mess, but we're tired. We'll sleep in Big Mary, says Colleen, so we don't get in trouble for being all mucked up in the Tilton Hilton. She sneaks inside and grabs the jumbo ball of Afghans. We put Gracie and Kitty in the front because they're small, and the rest of us cram on the car floor and the seats and the hatch in the back. We pull the Afghans over our heads to block the light that's tricking us into staying awake. In the late morning, maybe afternoon, we wake up because Jack gets up to go to the outhouse. Big Mary smells like big shit. We crawl out of the car, dusty and cricked and yawning. No one says anything about what's in front of the porch. The house is quiet except for the breeze of a snore we know is Polar Bear. What is there to say? JJ throws a cup of water on Ben, and Ben chases after him. And we all get cups and throw water, splashing off the mud we've been wearing since the night before, dirty rivers trickling down to our toes. And what Polar Bear and Aunt Sheila see bleary-eyed, their hands raised against the glare of the sun, is us kids. Us kids laughing and running over a torn-to-pieces eaglet we bathed and fed and found this morning, brought back to us by birds or dogs or the upside-down nests of the world, stomping what we saved into the ground, an eagle buried under our feet, a flurry of feathers rising up.